Welcome back to Race for the White House. Now time for 3 questions when I ask our panel to tackle the day's biggest stories. Our panel is MSNBC political analyst and Air America host Rachel Maddow, Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post, and the host of Morning Joe on MSNBC. He is Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough. First up, the economy. Let's listen to what Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama had to say about it earlier today.
In my conversations earlier this morning, I raised my concern about the continuing numbers of foreclosures and my very strong belief that in the absence of addressing that aspect of this subprime mortgage credit crisis, we will not be able to make the progress that we have to make.
We can't just tinker around the edges. We've got to bring about a fundamental change to our economy, one that's not just about representing Wall Street, but representing Main Street. And that means we're going to stop giving tax breaks to companies that ship jobs overseas.
So our first question, will the next president have to bail out Wall Street? Joe?
I think right now it looks like that's what's happening. I mean, you've got the Fed that's pumping billions of dollars into the banking sector, helping them out. But also, though, Main Street is being helped right now. When you have the Fed continuing to cut rates, we may be down to 2%. You're going to see a stronger economy down the road. And just to put a little perspective here, because, yes, things are bad. The financial sectors are weak. But Hillary Clinton's husband, Bill Clinton, got elected in 1996 by bragging about a low unemployment rate of 5.8%. Right now, it's 4.8%. Interest rates are dropping. And again, you've got Caterpillar, a heavy manufacturing company, saying they may be having one of the best years ever. The tech sector is strong and resilient. This is not the type of economy it was in 1992 when Bill Clinton got elected. It's not the economy stupid yet for most voters out there.
Rachel, there's a big disagreement about that.
Yeah, Joe, if you were running for re-election on the basis of the platform right now that the economy is actually secretly awesome, we just can't tell.
I didn't say that, Rachel, but you know what? If you and Chuck Schumer want to go around saying it's the Great Depression, you're going to lose also, because voters out there know it ain't 1929.
But, Joe, there is an ideological and political point to be made here, and both Obama and Clinton have the opportunity to make it. And that is to say, listen, with the SNL scandal, which would have been a $450 billion bailout in today's dollars, with the coming bailout that we're going to see of the financial sector because of the mortgage crisis, a lot of these things were precipitated by radical deregulation in these financial sectors. And yeah, there's going to have to be a public bailout to save them, probably. But it ought to be paired with some smart regulation.
Rachel, what is the consequence, even for the Democrats, of getting taxpayers on board for what would be a very, very costly bailout of Wall Street, of the banking industry alone?
I think that it has already started. The bailout has already started. There's a $30 billion guarantee to make the Bear Stearns deal
That's
happen.
right. $30 billion slipped out the door on a Sunday with nobody commenting on it. I think the case for the bailout is going to have to be made by either president, honestly. I mean, you could argue against it, but I think it's going to have to be made. But will it come with conditions that will change this so that we don't have another one of these bubbles that followed by another bailout?
All right, let me stop you there.
I'm just going to say really quickly, this did not happen because deregulation. This happened because homeowners got more home than they could afford. They got interest-only loans.
Right.
They gambled wildly because they wanted to turn it around and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And guess what? The market changed.
You hear that? Greedy homeowners. That's what Joe Scarborough is blaming for the economy.
You know what? No consequences. Gamble. Go to Vegas. Lose your money. And you know what? We're going to blame it on George Bush.
We're going to go on to the second question. Let me read something from Bill Chris's column in today's New York Times. The more you learn about him, the more Barack Obama seems to be a conventionally opportunistic politician, impressively smart and disciplined, who has put together a good political career and a terrific presidential campaign. But there's not much audacity of hope there. There's the calculation of ambition and the reconstruction of artifice mixed in with a dash of deceit, all covered with the great conceit that the campaign and the candidate are different. So, from the difficulties explaining his relationships with Resco and Reverend Wright to claims like Crystal's that he's the construction of artifice, is Barack Obama losing his luster as a candidate, Rachel?
Do you think that Bill Kristol ever thought that Obama really had any luster?
I think he actually did. I think he actually did, to be fair.
Really?
Well,
I think that Bill Kristol has become a professional anti-Democrat on the pages of the New York Times op-ed page. So, what he says about Barack Obama, for me, it's like the opposites game. If Barack Obama is losing his luster, it probably means he's becoming more credible as a national political figure. It's probably a good thing, and any criticism from Bill Kristol will probably be worn by any Democrat as a badge of honor. Let
me point out that column had a huge error in it, what looks like an error. Kristol claimed that Obama was present for one incendiary Reverend Wright sermon. Obama actually was in Miami at the time, says he wasn't there. So there's a credibility problem there with the column. What I think has happened with Obama, though, is that how when you get a new car and it has that new car smell, that's the thing that really excites you about the car. Eventually that wears off, but you still love the car's features. It's got a nav system and it's got surround sound, and I think Obama, if anything, has gone into the phase where he's got to sell his new and improved features rather than just the newness.
Yeah, but Joe, is it just that, or is Obama now in a spiral where he's got to engage Clinton in a way that ultimately hurts his brand of politics?
No. Again, and this is what I said earlier in the show when Rachel said he should go after John McCain. He's ahead. He's got the delegates on his side. The math is on his side. The excitement's on his side. He doesn't need to get down in the mud. But yes, what will we find out between now and November? We will find out that Barack Obama is opportunistic. We'll find out that he's ambitious. We'll find out that he probably did want to be president since he was 5 years old. But who cares? We want that in our president. And one other thing about this Reverend Wright deal, I'm sure there were many times he sat in the pew and he cringed. But guess what? There were 8,000 members of that church. I can tell you, as a Reformed politician, if I'm joining a church in Chicago, I'm looking for the one with 8,000 members. And that is not necessarily an evil thing. He's just opportunistic. All politicians are.
Finally, question 3, the Democratic delegate mess in Michigan and Florida drags on, as does the competition over superdelegates. Is there a Democrat with the standing to settle all of this, Gene?
No. I don't think
nobody's
there is
out
one.
there.
I mean, who would it be? Al Gore? I don't think Hillary Clinton's going to listen to Al Gore. Howard Dean? Nobody listens to Howard Dean. Neither of the candidates. They're going to have to make a deal, though. There's going to have to be a deal now, at least in terms of Florida. Looks like Michigan, there might be a redo, but in Florida, the Clinton people and the Obama people are going to have to sit down and work something out, and that's not going to be an easy process.
And Joe,
but
let's
I don't see
remind
anybody
people
who can make it happen.
Let's remind people of the news tonight, and that is Florida has said, no way, no redo. We're not going to vote again. So what's going to happen?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's bad news for the Democratic Party this fall in Florida, because a lot of Democratic activists are very upset. I talked to Phil Alonji this morning, who actually has spent a lot of time on the ground down in Florida. We all know Phil. I've heard the same thing over the past year. That is a problem in the fall. But to answer your question, no. The New York Times had this on the front page of Week in Review about a month ago. There are no power brokers. There are no grown-ups. The only senior statesman of the Democratic Party that could do this is Bill Clinton. But because he's so involved in this campaign, it wouldn't be Bill Clinton. It may be Bill Clinton 4 years from now, but certainly not now. So you know how this is going to be resolved? This is going to be resolved how the 2000 election was resolved. The last man or woman standing wins, and there's going to be no brokered deal. This is going to Denver.
Rachel, let me ask you this, though. Is there a group of Democrats who come together? Maybe Dean is involved, Gore, maybe yes, maybe no. Is John Edwards involved? And you got John Edwards and Nancy Pelosi and Gore. Those are the big names who are uncommitted right now.
I don't think there are big names in the Democratic Party that Democrats line up behind. I mean, everybody always says, Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line. There's nobody to fall in line behind in Democratic politics. It's not the way that Democrats work. And what I want to do is I want the Clinton staffers and the Clinton advisors and the Obama staffers and the Obama advisors to get drunk together and go on a retreat and decide that for the good of the party and the good of the country, they've got to figure out a way to not have these guys beat each other to death, because each passing day, each passing week, it's closer to a McCain presidency.
Isn't that what Democrats do every year, is get drunk and plan the fall campaign?
Let me just get Chuck in here. Chuck, you were off doing some reporting. Come back, talk about Florida, but also who settles this thing?
Well, what's interesting is I do think Al Gore and Nancy Pelosi settle it. While we know on the inside here that Al Gore is no friend of the Clintons, I think he has the standing inside the Democratic Party that if he says, you know, for a guy, particularly a guy that feels like he was wronged during a vote dispute back in 2000, if he says this is the way it should resolve itself, you're going to have a lot of superdelegates using him as cover. So I think Al Gore has much more of a powerful hand here than we give him credit for. As for what to do about Florida and Michigan, Howard Dean, the campaigns are begging Howard Dean to say, come to the DNC. Each of you send a representative. David Plouffe from the Obama campaign, Maggie Williams from the Clinton campaign. Let's sit in a room and let's figure out this Florida-Michigan thing, just the three of us, period. But Howard Dean has yet to apparently issue that invitation.
I will supply the drinks.